Go to fishstripes.com.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Fish Stripes Live. My name is Daniel. We have an amazing panel for you guys here tonight. Daniel, we have Eli, we have Isaac, and our very special guest from across the pond. You know him from Locked On Marlins, Mr. Peter Pratt. Peter, it's great to have you on finally.
Same. It's well overdue, guys. Delighted to be on. Absolutely love this show. And this host here in that chair, he's been doing a sensational job for months. Absolutely. So looking forward to this one, guys. A lot of baseball talk, but a lot of Great Britain vibes too. So I'm looking forward to that.
Peter, the first question I want to ask you, doing Locked On Marlins, talking to everyone, whether it's fans, players, people in the organization, just how has this season been for you as a fan and as someone now in the media?
Boy, oh boy, it's been a big commitment. I have to call that out. Like Locked On, 5 episodes a week. My wife at times is not happy with this commitment. I have to be honest. But in general, it's pushed me. We used to do a weekly pod every Tuesday with Fish Across the Pond. Flicking to 5 episodes has been a real test and has really just pushed me on, and the YouTube stuff too. But I've really enjoyed it, and it's been amazing the amount of people that have engaged, come on the show, joined as guests. It's just been a lot of fun. It's a grind, and you can kind of like sympathize with the players too, right? Just how much of a grind their season is, particularly when it's not going well like it isn't this year. For me, covering the team from in the UK, which is tricky anyway, it's been a grind at times too, but I've absolutely loved it. And the feedback's been great. Like, we have to say, everyone seems to enjoy the show. Everyone loves the guests, and it's been a lot of fun. And I appreciate everyone's support along the way. So, yeah, it's been great. The off-season, I think, is going to be – I think it could be explosive, the off-season. So I think there's going to be a lot of content to work with in this off-season once we get into it, because the Marlins, they're going to have to do something different, because what's it going to be, 95 losses 2 years in a row? Like, something's got to change, and it's going to be a wild one to cover, I think, as well.
Yeah, and maybe the exact opposite from that, maybe not something that I was wild to cover, was this Cubs series between Miami. They did ultimately fall in that series 2-1. There were some great pitching performances in that. The Marlins finally scored 10 runs, but there were bullpen mishaps in that, especially that last game, which we'll get into. Isaac, Jesus Luzardo, tell me about him from that Cubs game.
Well, I mean, Luzardo's his second great start against the Cubs, and albeit it's a very feeble offense that he was going up against, but, he looked every bit as dominant as he has been all year, basically. Aside from the injury bug, I think he had potential to be an all-star this year. So it was great to see him perform well. And the game that I covered on Tuesday was Pablo Lopez, and that's his second start in a row, again, albeit against a very bad offense, but still it's the best that he's looked this year as well, with velocities there. He's going the distance. He really almost got through that seventh inning, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So it was just really great to see the pitching do what it's done all year, basically, and just the offense and the bullpen not carrying the load. So there you go. You lose 2 out of 3 against the Cubs with great pitching performances.
Yeah, with Pablo, second straight start where he's gone with the pant legs all the way down after years of from every start I've ever seen of him wearing the stirrups, to find something that works for him in this new style. That's refreshing to see. It's good to see his changeup just coming back all the way to what it used to be entering this year, earlier this year, when he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. For whatever reason, he got away from that a little bit during what was sort of a slump in the middle of the season. And so I think it's not a coincidence that by just throwing it more often, he's been having more success. And with Luzardo, I continue just to be Isaac's super bold prediction didn't come true about Luzardo being like second on the team in innings pitched because of his injury. But the reason why I think the expectations of him were kind of suppressed is that even when he was on his game last year, he didn't go deep into games. He was not efficient. He was almost like at times he felt like just a reliever kind of being camouflaging as a starter. And now he looks like a legit bona fide, if not mid rotation at least, if not better than that, as a bona fide starting pitcher because he consistently goes deep into games. He's firing on all cylinders. This is certainly the best that he's ever pitched. That's not a very bold statement to make. And even though you need to like discount for the quality of the competition, he's done it against some good teams along the way as well. That Dodgers game is still very fresh in my mind at Dodger Stadium. And so now twice against the Cubs, the stats are incredible against the Cubs. He dominated them both times he's faced them this year. And it's just, at the end of the day, it is really deflating to see them lose those games just because I think that does affect the pitcher a little bit. It's hard for the pitcher to separate pitching amazingly well and yet your team's still losing. And like they just found very creative ways to blow it in these last two games. It was a combination of the offense being like in finding creative ways to stop their own rallies, to run themselves out of innings at times, to put together poor at bats, and also just the bullpen. I received a lot of I saw a lot of comments blasting Stephen Okert for his struggles in one of these games. And what I need to do is just point to the roster and say, who on this bullpen do you trust more than like Stephen Okert and Dylan Floro? Like this is something I continue to harp on, is how their bullpen and its status moving forward is just as messy as the offense is moving forward. They are almost starting from scratch with that moving forward, as we're seeing at the end of this year, where it is continuing to cost them winnable games against bad teams and really hammering home that this team is about as bad as any in baseball at the moment.
Is it safe to say they have 7 bullpen spots they need to fix for next year?
I think so. That's not going too far with it because everybody is like inconsistent or mid. Yeah.
There's no one you guys would keep for next year if you had to pick
Okert
guy.
And Huascar looks good.
No Anuriz Sabala.
You just listen to these names that are pitching high, and they were pitching these high leverage innings in July and in August. So I think that really shows you
how
deflated.
Some names that were injured and haven't played a lot really this season: Cole Sulser, Anthony Bender. Where do those guys stand with you in terms of coming back next season, or if they have any spot in the Marlins bullpen?
Well, with Bender, his Tommy John is going to keep him out for the first half of next year at the very minimum with that one. Cole Sulser, I was just checking on him last night where he was tasked with closing out a game that Jacksonville was leading like 9-2, and he couldn't do it. He allowed a late home run, and they had to take him out for someone else to record the final out. So that return to AAA to get him right hasn't gone well. There are guys that I guess they'll just roll over on the 40-man roster because they have minor league options left. People like Sulser, like Jeff Brigham as well. But, I mean, we're just a few weeks away from seeing a lot of cuts from this team. A lot of the players on this team are just not going to be here after the regular season ends when they need to bring players back from the 60-day IL and they need to cram everything in there. I guess that's something to look into in a few weeks is how exactly they make those decisions. Like, how do you decide between a Jeff Brigham and an Andrew Nardi and a Brian Hoeing? I don't know. It's splitting hairs between these guys.
Yeah. And you're looking at also the other guys in the bullpen, just, maybe some other names like a Richard Blyer who has that guaranteed contract, Dylan Floro. Just what do you do with guys like that? Maybe players aren't really producing, but are owed money.
I think you got to pray to God that Richard Blyer has a good first half next year. You got to pray that he's good, because I don't see them being contending. So you got to hope that you can get something for him, sort of a Anthony Bazzak Pop situation. Just hope that some contender would like a left-handed specialist that can command the zone pretty well. That's owed a decent amount of money. I'm not exactly sure how much he's owed next year, but it's a guaranteed year. So they're going to try their hardest to trade him.
Don't give me money. I'll spend it.
I was going to mention before Richard Blyer told us how much money he had. With a guy like Anthony Bass, do you think maybe we overlooked him or maybe took him for granted just how well he was with the Marlins, especially this season. And now you're looking at them now, and it seems like they have no guy. Anthony Bass was really consistent, and he still is with the Blue Jays. Do you think that's really something maybe we should have looked at? Was he maybe taken for granted in this bullpen?
That's an interesting thing to bring up. Partially, yes, they did sell at his absolute highest value. And part of that was because he still has that full year of control next year at a very low number that the Blue Jays liked. And that's how they were able, I know Peter is happy with what he's seen with Groshans in return. And I think a lot of us were. Like, to make that trade possible, I don't regret that in hindsight. It's just that you were hoping over these final 2 months that they would test out some very interesting arms in bullpen roles. One thing I've been looking forward to is when they're going to start this surplus of rotation candidates, one or more of those guys going to transition to the pen. And the bump in the road that they've hit is that all their starters are getting hurt. And so they don't have a surplus of starters right now to use in that situation. Unfortunately, that's where this really complicated the situation, because just think about it. Go into your head, Max Meyer was supposed to be part of this organization, part of this pitching staff right now in some sort of role moving forward. He had nothing left to prove in the minor leagues. You, of course, have Trevor Rogers and Braxton Garrett. We might talk about that later. The fact that now Trevor is out with injury. And the reason why Braxton was outside looking in is because they thought they had those 5 starters. But now all of a sudden, by necessity, he's in there. Nick Neidert got hurt. I was kind of interested to see what Nick Neidert might become if they put him in a bullpen role. But you could go down the list. They have a lot of guys that are hurt right now.
Cody Poteet.
Cody Poteet was supposed to be part of this major league pitching staff in one role or another. Jordan Holloway, that was my worst take of the year, that Jordan Holloway was going to be something big.
The number 4 starter.
He's made one appearance, and now he underwent arthroscopic elbow surgery, I think. Even Daniel Castano. Was Italian Stallion was impressing us with the limited time that we saw of him. The fact that they've just had a lot of these pitching injuries, that has complicated these last couple months. It has been a perfect storm of shit that has made this team difficult to watch down the stretch. And some of it is, I guess you could put on decision-making, but other of it just does seem to be kind of rotten luck with these players not being available, and for you to now go into the offseason and really not know exactly what you have. And so just as going back to that, it is just a huge question mark in the vast majority of these bullpen slots as to who's going to fill them, whether the guys they have internally are going to be take to that role. Some of them that haven't been in conventional relief roles, whether they're going to figure it out. That's what's been unfortunate, is that they're losing these games and still not really learning that much or making much progress or picking out new impact players, either offensively or in the bullpen. The only thing that continues to go right, as we've touched on, the starting pitching, and feeling that you have at least 4, maybe 5 guys that you feel really good about heading into next year, and that you don't need a whole lot of other help around them in order for that to be an elite unit. It's just everything else is in flux.
Yeah. And I think the last name, just to bring up on this bullpen, you mentioned someone injured. How about Tommy Nance? He's been pretty decent. I'd say it as he's had a good stretch before he got injured. Is that something to even remotely look at, or is it just he's injured, put him to the side?
Yeah, well, now he's hurt too. He is in the same gray area as some of the guys in the current bullpen and others that are injured as well. And also Cole Sulzer and AAA. They can't keep all these guys who are relief-only pitchers on the wrong side of 30, because the upside with them isn't just particularly high. I kind of did I was buying in a little bit with what I saw from him when he came back from the initial injury, I suppose. But I can't say I feel too strongly one way or the other. I was calling for them to cut ties with him earlier in the year, and I shouldn't shift my opinion too much based on a handful of outings recently. It's going to be a really complicated decision in order to figure out how many of those arms you want to hold on to, because you can't hold on to all of them.
Yeah. I think we go off now from bullpen talk and talk a little WBC. Great Britain qualifying for the World Baseball Classic. Jeff Chisholm announcing Ian Lewis. Peter, go off. Go off, King. Go off on WBC.
Well, let's start with the actual qualification, because if you guys wanted to go and watch a baseball game, I recommend you go and watch the British game against Spain, which got them through for qualification. It was an absolute stunner of a game. Great Britain were down 8-3 They were getting absolutely blasted out of there. They came back, home run in the 9th inning to take it to extras. It was absolute scenes from Great Britain. Then they get into extras, and there was a dubious call at third base. Runner, I mean, it was a throwing error. It was just, it looked like Little League at times, to be honest with you. But, the runner gets the third and a sac fly to bring it home for Great Britain. Everyone going absolutely crazy. It was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the actual coverage itself was, interesting. The cameraman was struggling to keep track of the ball at times, and you were kind of guessing where it was going to land. But listen, there was me, all the British baseball guys watching the game, all texting each other. It was just extreme drama, guys, because so much was on the line. Like, you just feel differently about baseball when it's like a country. It's not an experience that I've ever felt before watching baseball. Normally it's just, it's the Marlins, and it is what it is. But to have the Great British team performing and actually qualifying for the first time ever was wild. Absolutely wild. And it was one hell of a game to get through. And they smoked a couple of other teams in there. I think, they beat the French team, which were nice as well, and the Germans. So there was no cupcakes there for Great Britain. They've actually deserved to qualify. For those that are kind of like asking, because quite a few people have been since, what pool are they going to be in? Where are they going to be playing? The rumors are that it's going to be in Pool A, which will be based out in Taiwan for that early pool. I think Italy are in there, and the Netherlands are in there, as well as the hosts. So, yeah, I think that's all indications. Clearly, I had my eyes on Pool D, which would have been sensational. Great Britain playing in Miami, but Pool A, I think, is the likely landing spot if you're to believe it. So we'll see. It means they've really got to progress well through this tournament to get themselves to Miami. But anything can happen, right? And Jazz Chisholm, what a way to announce that he was playing, on the broadcast, like Paul Severino just teasing it out of him. And great news for us. He's obviously played for Great Britain previously in a previous qualifier, but yeah, for him coming out, and I'm interested to get your guys' take. I covered it on my show yesterday. The fact that he was adamant, he really put forward, it isn't just I'm playing for Great Britain. It was I'm playing shortstop for Great Britain. Oh, and I'm wearing number 3. Like, it seems like this is Jazz's team, but he's adamant at shortstop. We haven't seen him at shortstop really for the Fish at all for a long period. So I'm very intrigued how that kind of carries over for the Marlins as we head into 2023, what the future holds for Jazz Chisholm. Do the Marlins believe he can actually transition to short? And that opens up, I think, a few opportunities for us. And again, going back to the deadline, a lot of talk about a second base upgrade with the stick. And to me, again, that indicates the Fish are really considering getting Jazz sliding over to short. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do on that one.
Yeah, you and me both. That was the biggest piece of news for me was that, hey, I'm playing shortstop and I'm I'm wearing number 3 because they acquired him as a shortstop. They wanted him at short when he played in the playoffs. He did play second, but they had Miguel Rojas. He was still playing really well. Even in 2021, he played well as well. But I think it's time where they can have an upgrade in both positions up the middle of the infield. So you're right. I think I wouldn't be surprised if in spring training this year in 2023, it's Jazz at short most of the time, which would be cool.
Well, the thing is, it's something that they really need to have. They want to have a better idea about it before spring training, and they want to if he is fully adamant about playing shortstop, and they're confident that whatever happened in 2021, we were all there in 2021, where it just seemed like he was a different person when he played shortstop. Like when he was at second base as a rookie, he was very good, and when he was at shortstop, for whatever reason, it was just a handful of unforced mistakes. The arm didn't play quite as well as we thought it might. And, analytically, he was a negative when they put him at that position while Mickey Rowe was hurt for a bit. And it became pretty evident as the year got on that it would make sense to have him at second base. But to me, that was a head scratcher to me at the time. I thought maybe that is just a small sample size fluke. All indications coming up was that he could be a serviceable shortstop. He's not somebody that even is necessarily overboard in terms of making dangerous plays or reckless plays. Like he's somebody that actually is usually very fundamentally sound and has a good idea and good instincts and understanding of situations. Like it was hard. I want to kind of excuse it as a blip. But for the Marlins, they need to be pretty sure about it one way or the other. And this is something that we have mentioned other times about just the fact that it is hard for this franchise to afford a shortstop to like start from scratch at that position and bring in somebody that they feel very confident in, whether it's via free agency with money that Bruce Sherman isn't going to spend, or whether it's via trade and depleting what's left of a farm system that has lost a lot of these guys to graduations, to the majors, a lot of players that their stock is down as young players compared to what it used to be. There are so many other opportunities, a much wider universe of targets if they're focusing on second base and they feel they already have their shortstop. Right. So that's an exciting idea as long as that's the reality. It's squaring that vision with actually having somebody that they can trust at shortstop in Jazz. And I imagine that they want to make a decision internally about that early in the offseason and then potentially make moves based on that. If not, I mean, the other route is that they wait all the way to spring training early in the season. But at that point, if you miss opportunities to acquire guys, it puts into question what their goals are for the 2023 season as well. So that is a good storyline to follow for sure.
Yeah, and Pete, just for this GB team, maybe for people that don't know, who can we see on that roster? Maybe people who have maybe major league experience. I know Harry Ford is in there, top prospect for the Mariners. Just are there any other players that maybe you have your eye on looking at that maybe people would know of?
Mate, well, you called out Harry Ford or Harrison Ford. Everyone was kind of jumping on that boat. And he was hitting bombs galore. He was absolutely sensational in these qualifiers. And I think, the thing is you just don't know who's going to kind of put their name forward really to commit to play. So we'll wait and see. But certainly the standout was Harry Ford in these qualifiers, no doubt. There was an ex-Marlin, though, that was on the roster. It was working out of the bullpen. Would you believe? So he was out there, I believe, and it was, I want to say Vance Worley, but I'm now doubting myself. But I feel like he was there in the pen, working his way out. So it's not littered with studs, to be honest with you, Daniel. It's it's a relatively understated roster, but listen, you sprinkle in Jazz Chisholm and a bit of Ian Lewis in there, you've got the swag popping off. I mean, we'll see. And like I said, Harry was absolutely sensational.
Harry Ford, they have Tanaj Thomas, who was the top 30 prospect for the Pirates. Yep. So it looks not bad. It's a pretty nice roster. See if they make any noise. Jazz, Ian Lewis, Harry Ford. It looks really good there. I think we're going to go from that roster to now building our own rosters, because now we're going to do a little draft for everyone watching with active rosters, active players. Are we doing active roster, Eli? Or are we doing the 40-man?
Killer transition, Daniel. Transition.
That was sensational.
That was beautiful.
Well, this is something I came up on fairly short notice in order to differentiate this from the other streams that we have. We're going to do this just based on the active roster, because we haven't touched on this. The Marlins did make a couple moves yesterday to put Peyton Burdick back on there, to formally put Trevor Rogers on the IL, to bring back up Braxton Garrett, and to put Joey Wendell on the IL. What they're working with is kind of uninspiring at the moment. So let me just
I said it in the group chat that it's got to be one of the more depressing drafts you can have.
Yeah,
right. But we can.
I tried saying adding the Nats, but I think that made it a little more depressing.
Let's see if I can get this to work correctly. There we go.
Ooh.
There we go. So this is the active roster right now. That's Brian Hoeing hiding on the bottom. We have 15 pitchers we have how many players? We have 14 and 14. Yeah. So that's the Marlins active roster entering this series. And I wanted to do a draft based on how we feel about these players entering next year. So it's 28 players, which means it divides very evenly, 7 for each of us. And we're just going to claim them for ourselves entering next year with a very quick explanation about why we feel that way about them. I have a feeling who's going to go first overall, but I think from moving down the list, as you get to the bottom, it could be very interesting decisions at the end between a lot of players that perhaps we put in the same buckets. Yeah. Don't overthink this too much.
Yeah. I like this.
John, if you're there, can you keep tally of the picks for us? Maybe
I'm going to try to do my best. I have everybody's names written out here. Like there's Isaac.
Okay.
And then I have Peter and Daniel and Eli, and I'm going to try to manage it that way. It only makes sense to go in order of where we are in the predictions standings.
Ooh.
So that would be Daniel picking first. I'll go second, then Isaac third, and Peter fourth, and we'll do it in the snake draft as well. So then Peter gets 5th, and then Isaac 6th, and then me 7th, and then Daniel 8th. We'll pick 7 players each. Again, this is just based on and thankfully John is managing it himself from over there. But I'll try my best here as well. Again, 7 players each, one at a time, based on how we feel about them entering next year and the production we're expecting. Daniel, with the first overall pick, I have a feeling where you're leaning.
Luke Williams. Luke Williams.
First overall pick in the Marlins sad draft. Team Daniel host is going to select Sandy Alcantara, the 2022 unofficial Cy Young winner. I don't think a lot needs to be said, but he's going to be one of the top pitchers in baseball next season. For me, he's probably the only player there that has that's really, you could tell what you're going to get next season, what's going to get there. They have him locked on in his contract. Sandy is the guy. He's the ace. He's the man, not just of the rotation, of the Marlins, of the National League. And first overall pick, he'll go one-on-one in any draft, even if you do all-star team or whatnot for pitchers. I think Sandy is going to be top tier next season.
Okay. With the second overall pick, I am going to go with Jesus Luzardo. I've bought into the hype. I like what I'm seeing. I feel that he's made very significant improvement as an overall pitcher, and that he's going to be probably not the ace of this rotation, but I think he's going to be number 2 among all these guys. And I certainly prefer him over any of the position players moving into next year. Luzardo is legit. I'm blown away by what he's done. So he's my first rounder.
Nice.
All right. Well, with the third overall pick, I had a feeling that this would be the trend, but I'm also going to go starting pitching. I don't know whether I should take into consideration whether that person could be traded or not. But if he is in Miami, even if he's not on the Marlins, Pablo Lopez, he's at the moment probably tied for second best pitcher on the team. Luzardo's looked fantastic, but Pablo Lopez can't go wrong with Big Pablito at number 3.
Seems fair. I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was the way it was going to go. And I'm happy that it went because I'm picking at 4. I'm glad that Eddie Cabrera remains available.
Ooh.
I absolutely love Eddie Cabrera going into next year. I have a sense that he could be the number 2 and actually push Sandy next year. Push Sandy. I'm expecting a huge breakout from Eddie. I absolutely love it. I know, yeah. It's 11 o'clock. 1 minute to 11. It's Friday. There's a few beers flowing here in the Pratt household. I'm not going to lie. Nevertheless, Eddie Cabrera is in the mix, and I absolutely love that pick, and I love him for next year. With the 5th pick, though, I have to take an offensive guy now, I think. And I really, really love Nick Fortes. So I'm locking in the catcher. I'm letting you guys deal with the rest of the bombs at catching spot, and I'm going to take Nick Fortes. I love him as a catcher. As a DH, he's absolutely terrible, but he has been so impressive, hasn't he? Like, what a star that's ascended there. Gap power for days, bombs for days. Nicky Fortes, let's get him in there.
I like that. Okay. Mr. Isaac.
Number 6 overall pick. There's few breakout pitchers that have performed the way that Braxton Garrett has, and he's going to be my second overall pick. I think he can be a number 2 in a lot of rotations. He's got that arsenal, and I think it'll be him. So I think he'll be the number 4 for Miami next year, and I like him a lot. I think what he's done with that slider, curveball, slurve, whatever you want to call it, has been phenomenal. So I think he will be my number 2 pick.
Nice.
Coop.
Wow.
I hope
people are sleeping on him because of his midseason swoon. He's had some in-season inconsistencies throughout his career, but by and large, he just rakes. I think he's going to be as good as ever next year, even if it's only as a DH, not as a 100% full-time player. When he's in the lineup, he's going to hit. And this was a nice year to just see that it was possible for him to play what was pretty close to a full season. I believe in Coop moving forward.
Peter, really quick on your pick, I didn't realize how crazy the splits were. As a DH, Nick Fortes hits 0.29 in 42 plate appearances. And as a catcher, he hits 297 with an 864 OPS.
Yeah. Wild.
What are they doing?
I know. Why are you DHing him?
Oh, my goodness. Wow. I didn't realize it was that bad.
See, now is when things get tough. Now
He's
is
1
when
for
things
35.
are tricky.
35. Sorry, go ahead.
See, I would have taken Jazz. Obviously, can't take Eric Gonzalez. Let's see. You know what? Let's go BA.
Damn it!
Let's go BA. I like it. I think BA, having him there, good. He's had decent season, but take out the injuries. I think he's well above for the Marlins there, and I think you gotta, hopefully they sign him back. Let's see what happens. But BA still contributor to the Marlins even for next season and maybe the year after. And then after, let's go with. Oh man, now's when things are tricky. Let's go with Jordan Groshans.
Capital.
Let's go with Jordan. I like what I've seen so far. Now is when things are getting thin, but I like Jordan so far. Let's just see what happens. Maybe he sticks in the starting rotation, another bench guy, but I'm gonna go with Jordan.
I love it that we're calling out how thin it's getting, and you've only made 3 picks.
Yeah, it's already thin.
Yeah, it's coming up. This is the 10th overall pick. We need to pick 28 players, and this is only number 10 coming right here.
It's getting thin.
It's already bad.
This is close. I was waffling between 2 guys. I will go with John Birdie here.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that.
Yeah, his base running is so impactful.
Eli,
his
man.
versatility as well. And I think he could hit just enough moving forward. Eventually, for a speedy guy like this, I get nervous as he gets further along in years. Like that could go bad for him in a hurry. But reigning MLB stolen base champion, I'll hold on to him. I think for one more year, he's still going to be a really valuable player all around.
I think I know who Noah would have taken with his first overall pick. 1-1, Jake Fishman. But
well, thin is an understatement. I think Alex Carver's going to love my pick. We got to go with Charles LeBlanc. He has been a stud. We have Peter. He's been a stud since being called up. He performed great all minor league season. He's literally has not missed a beat since being called up. So got to go with Charles LeBlanc. Play third, play a little bit outfield, play some first base. So you got to go with Charles LeBlanc. It's a right-handed threat. My new BA, I guess, since Daniel stole him.
Boys. We've missed out. You've all missed out on this one.
Uh-oh.
There's the everyday starting center fielder is still on the board. He's still on the board for 2023. Brian De La Cruz.
Oh. I thought you meant Blade.
Not Blade. He's definitely not seeing any more time in center field, although Don Mattingly thinks he can by all accounts, which
I reported that.
You did. I think I used the word propaganda on that one, actually, if I recall correctly. Anyway, De La Cruz in. You've got to be fair to De La Cruz. Earlier on, he was struggling in the year, but it was unlucky. There was a lot of bad luck, I think, in his numbers for those that read into those. There's a player there in De La Cruz, and if the I knew Noah would love that one. If things go sideways this offseason for the Fish, then De La Cruz has got a high probability of starting in center field in 2023. If it's a wonky offseason, and it could be. I double down on picks now. Yeah. I'm going to go to the bullpen now. Finally, I'm going to get into this pen and lock down my closer. It's early for the closer, and is there a closer in this pen? I don't know, but I'm going for Tanner Scott. I think if he can get the control right, Tanner Scott is serviceable in the 6th inning.
Is there
how much fun this would have been if we were doing the Dodgers roster? This would have been so much fun.
Oh my goodness! Wow, yeah. Peter, you shocked me there.
Yeah, you're not happy with Tanner Scott.
Oi. You know, I'm gonna go for the offensive upside since I have a couple of nice starting pitchers. You got to go with Gerard. I know the numbers haven't been there for, but he has got some insane raw power that I haven't seen since Stan has been here. So you got to go if you can just hit a little bit. I think he elevates about more than enough, where he can be a high slugging player while not getting on base a lot, but he can be a decent player.
Yeah, he's going to be great next year, but not with the Marlins,
put
unfortunately.
Put him at first. Waste the arm. It's okay. Have platoon him and Leywin at first, and it'll be delish.
He's going to have a Harold Ramirez extravaganza era. He's going to go somewhere else and just be hitting 340, and we're just going to be going, what the hell? What went wrong?
Stephen Pierce if he goes to Boston.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet on the intangibles here and go with JJ Bleday. I think he's going to come back next season as a transformed player, as somebody that already has a little bit more of a foundation than we think. As soon as he called up, we were oohing and ahhing about the quality of his takes, of his plate discipline. I think that is still there, even though it hasn't shown as much in recent weeks. Not to overreact to his rookie numbers. When this guy got called up, I thought he would stick. I thought he would surprise some people, and not as a center fielder, but certainly in the corner spots. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to optimize his offensive game. He's going to make the adjustments necessary, and that he's going to be a big beneficiary of the shift going away. That he's going to, more so than just about anybody on this roster, that he's going to pick up more hits to the pull side that don't exist right now, that will exist next year with the restrictions on shifting. Yep. Bleday for sure. This is a pretty easy call for me among the remaining position players. I think as soon as next year, he's going to take a significant step forward.
Yeah.
Good call.
When I said thin, I lied. Now it's give me Lewin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still really great defensively at first base. Hitting wise, he hasn't really been that great, but he did have a couple home runs over the last couple of days. He's been picking it up as of late, really having the hot bat. Hopefully he can bring that into the end of September, maybe next year. Maybe he starts off as opening day for his baseman. See what happens there, but getting a potential starter already this late, I think is already good value. And then next, man, you mentioned Jazz at shortstop. And if they continue hitting at second, that means someone has to start at shortstop. Give me Miggy.
You're such a capital, bro.
Give me Miggy. Still has a decent arm, has a really good arm. Defensively, offensively has been a struggle, but someone has to play short, and Miggy is well above average in terms defensively for me.
Any chance he wins a Gold Glove, Eli?
I see how that's been a conversation recently. I don't think people realize the criteria that's involved there. It's kind of out of our ability to assess publicly. They turn it over to the Sports Info Solutions, and they combine a few stats that it's hard to gauge one way or the other. I think he's got a shot. I mean, we felt he had a shot a couple of years ago when he was actually a finalist in 2020.
Yeah.
Still, the competition in the National League isn't super steep this year. Lindor is still having a very good year defensively at the position. And I know Dansby Swanson is kind of around there as well. And that's about it. I mean, across the league. So he should be a finalist. I wouldn't be surprised one way or the other. It does feel like he's playing as well as he ever has defensively. That has been a very, very big bright spot because it is unusual to be a 33-year-old starting shortstop in this league. Like, just off the top of my head, can't really name many others with that. Anyway, my next pick, I'm going with Dylan Floro. I still like Dylan Floro.
Man.
3.02 ERA as a Marlin. I don't think people realize that. There's been a lot more good than bad from Dylan Floro. And this year got turned sideways by that injury in spring training, his shoulder rotator cuff issue. And it took him a while to get back to form. And even now, you don't feel quite as enthusiastic about him as at times last year, but he's close. And I feel like next year, if he is fully healthy coming out of the gate, he can be very good again. So it's a boring pick because it's more about the high floor than the high ceiling. But at his very worst, he's a major league reliever. Among all these guys, who are you confident going forward that is a bona fide positive for your bullpen moving forward? And it's certainly Floro over any of these others. Maybe Okert is in the same neighborhood as well. But I trust Floro. I trust him.
Yeah, well, you mentioned him, and I think he's the second best reliever on this team right now, and I think he has been all year long. He's been the eighth inning guy, high leverage spots. You got to go with Mr. Steven Okert, who's had a little bit of a struggle lately. I think he's really got to work on his PFPs. I think he takes a long time to get the ball, get set, and throw to first base, as we've seen. But, he was getting a little unlucky, some fluke hit by pitches. But I think Steven Okert is here to stay. I think he'll be a very high leverage reliever for Miami next year, whether it's in the 7th or 8th. But no more closing.
Okay. Things are tricky now I've only got, I think, 2 hitters, so I'm just going to stay down the middle. I'm going to just solidify the spine of this roster. And, I mean, could I go 2 catchers? I mean, I'm going to take Luke Williams. I think there's a chance Luke Williams is still on this roster. I'd be surprised if Peyton Burdick contributes much in 23, to be honest with you. But, injuries could take its toll again. I think Luke Williams could well be. I think the Marlins do like him. And he could do something. Doubling down in the bullpen, and I still believe in Richard. I still do. And Richard Blyer is on this roster as well. 2 lefties out of the pen. This pen should be lights out.
Richard Blyer and Tanner Scott. My goodness.
Boy, oh boy.
For me, I'm going to stay in the bullpen, I think, because it's either Stallings or Burdick. So, no, all due respect, you got to go with Jeff Brigham. I sort of like what I've seen in a limited sample this year, and he's one of the nicer human beings in the organization, and it's just an easy guy to root for. So I like Jeff Brigham.
Nice.
Okay.
I know who my next guy would be, but I think he'll be gone.
Oof.
Give me Jacob Stallings.
Oh, you took my guy.
Yeah, give me Jacob Stallings. Come on,
Yeah,
he's good in the things that you cannot measure for sure. For how he's worked with Sandy, on the very, very best out of Sandy and Pablo as well. Yeah, with him, the bat's been a disappointment this year. There was that midseason resurgence in July and much of August. He's still a major leaguer, and that's kind of the bar I'm looking to clear at this point. Guys that are definitely major leaguers in some facet of the game with Stallings. The power is not going to be there, but I think he could scratch across enough offense if he gets himself into favorable counts moving forward. There will be enough dunk singles and enough walks in there to keep him viable moving forward with him. Yeah. So not the loudest endorsement of him, but he's my pick.
So my final 2 picks. For my first one, I'm gonna go with the last position player there, Payne Burdick. Have not had a great season, but when he has flashes, they have been really good. Really good in the minors. Has the raw power there. I'm just going to go with Payne Burdick to solidify my outfield. And now we go to the bullpen. Now is when things get tough. I'm not going to pick Nardi, not going to pick Hoeing. It's between Fishman and Brazoban, and I'm going to go with Fishman. Very limited, very, very limited in what we've seen from Fishman. But in those 8 innings, he has been pretty nice. Maybe if he finishes off well enough, and maybe at the spring training, he might have a spot on the roster. But again, he probably won't see the roster again until this time next season. But I think he has the best chance out of the last remaining guys there for next season. So I'm going to go with Fishman.
Yeah. Well, I think you're wrong. I'm happy with Huascar Brazoban. I love this pick. My sleeper at the very end of the draft. I squint really closely and I see somebody that maybe is this generation's Kyle Bearclaw, where he's going to get into messy situations, but he's often going to get out of them. I like his pitch mix. He's an amazing story. He is one of the oldest rookies in all of baseball.
32.
Yeah. And he's interesting. The one thing you worry about is the control moving forward. Is he going to throw enough strikes? Is he going to actually hit the catcher's glove and not hurt himself with wild pitches, etc.? Yeah, he's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, he strikes out 12 and a half guys per 9. I think he walks 5 or 6 guys per 9. So he's a fun guy. He's a cool guy in the clubhouse.
He was totally off the grid even at the midpoint of this year, AAA. And then something clicked for him in the middle of the year at AAA. And for the most part, he's just been more good than bad from him in the big leagues. So he is my final round pick, leaving just 2 for Peter and Isaac to split among them.
Isaac, you have to choose one of Alex Carver's children. Which one will you be picking?
For me, it's a very easy decision. I think his last 2 outings have been okay. He looks to be getting somewhat on track. I would like to see him pitch a little bit more high leverage situations for the rest of the year. Andrew Nardi.
Oh,
Andrew Nardi, easy. I think the stuff is there. He's getting the strikeouts. He's just really, really struggling, and it's reminding me. I know Alex Carver is going to be smiling. It reminds me of Vesia a little bit. Vesia obviously had the crazy minor league numbers. Nardi not as well. He didn't perform as well as Vesia did in the minors, but hey, the stuff is there. I like the fastball. I like the off speed, and Nardi, for me, I think he definitely has a chance to win a bullpen job out of spring training. If this is the bullpen going in, he definitely has an inside chance at being in the big leagues.
Not bad.
It was an easy pick.
Peter, Brian Hoeing, anything you could tell us?
There's one positive to give you. He's got one win. So, he's probably got more wins than half of this bullpen, if indeed you look at wins. So, what has he got as an ERA? I don't know. What is it?
13.50.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of
13.50.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, though, guys, long off season with Mel Stottlemyre, this guy has the potential to come back and be lights out and be throwing. He'll throw more innings than Sixto Sanchez next year. Put it that way.
Yeah, and he's coming off a perfect outing, one inning, one strikeout, no hits, no runs. But
trending, baby, trending.
The ones before that, 12 earned runs in 7 innings pitched for Brian Hoeing.
Yeah,
Mel. It takes time. Mel just likes to leave them do their thing first. Like Luzardo, he came in, let him do his thing, and then Mel sprinkles the dust and turns them into studs.
Ooh,
I'm happy with this.
I like this.
Is this John's?
Of course, John Rodriguez,
Nice.
our future stream guest. I have not invited him yet, but I think I am going to invite him. I think on Tuesday's stream, John, if you're available. He is very good at these simple designs.
God, my team is ass.
Let me see Paulo Brax, LeBlanc, Gerard.
I like Daniel's
three.
team. Daniel's team is the best for sure.
Lane. I like my lane win value. I like that. Hey, Burdick.
Not really.
We're going to let the people decide on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's not what you guys
We'll have a
care
poll.
about. It's about what the public thinks. So we'll hand it over to them and have them decide their fate.
So if you cut Sandy's WAR in half, he still has more than any other team combined.
Easily.
How about that?
I am being anchored by Hoeing, though. If it wasn't for Hoeing, I'd play up there.
The Fortes pick is a good one. I like that. That took me by surprise.
Can you imagine how, no disrespect to Fortes, but how thin that, second round pick was Nick Fortes?
Phil, let me ask you this. If we're talking about it, let's say everyone's healthy. Is it Sandy Jazz, Sandy? How would you guys do it?
Sandy and then Jazz.
Yes.
All right.
Agreed.
Well, who else are we forgetting about that story?
Wendell? Does Wendell get
Wendell
taken?
would probably be a second round pick.
Oh. Who else do we have?
Wendell, Soler, Avi Garcia. Soler would
Oh,
probably be
Avi. That's a good one. Yeah.
Is it a good one?
I mean, in terms of like having for next season.
It's an odd year next year. I'll take a punt on an odd year for Avi. Like he comes alive in those years.
No, his track record makes it very clear. And in hindsight, it was our mistake to not read into that. The pattern has been very obvious that yes, he's had his best years in odd number years. In 2023. Big bounce back potential.
And I will say I really liked what I saw when he came back from that injury, albeit it was a very small sample size, but he looked thinner. The exit velocity has still been there all year long, whether he's been able to tap into it. Sorry, he's been striking out a lot, but I really did like what I saw as a completely different player.
So let me ask you guys this. You mentioned Avi. Who do you pick first, Avi or Jorge Soler?
Jorge Soler. Well,
odd year.
It's a good
I
question.
would probably go Avi because I don't want to entirely disregard my feelings entering this spring. I thought, I think certainly when you compare injuries between with him, it's his hamstring again, whereas with Soler, it's his very fuzzy back issue that has kept him down for an extended period. In terms of the one that you trust to be durable next season and not have this linger in any way, to be able to flush this year entirely, I think Avi has a slightly stronger odds of being able to do that and just flip the switch again.
Yeah, maybe Soler opts out.
Ooh.
Can't disregard it.
And another guy who was injured, Trevor Rogers, just placed in the IL. Does he go early for you guys? Is he
second round as well, probably?
Second round? If he after Luzardo, before Pablo?
Definitely after Luzardo and Pablo.
Yeah.
So, really quick, we're talking about this series. We've done all this, and now we're going to talk briefly about the National Series coming up.
Do we have to?
Well, my favorite player in the entire world is pitching tonight, so I think we have to at least talk about it a little bit. At least the pitching matchup with Josiah Gray for the Nationals going up against Brack. So, Eli, what do you see from this pitching matchup? And first off, Brack's coming off the option now. I was surprised when he got optioned. And really, what do you see from this pitching matchup with Brack's going up against the Nats?
Right. That was a little thing that people probably could have been more outraged about with Braxton getting sent down, despite performing in the big leagues almost from start to finish. He has been one of the big bright spots of this year, of a player that has exceeded a lot of expectations and has taken a significant step forward. So it's glad that he's back. It's unfortunate that it comes in a corresponding move for Trevor going out. With Braxton, he has the makings of just a well-rounded starting pitcher. The progress that he's made, especially with his slider this year. And I was looking at his recent starts, like more so than ever before, right before getting sent down, that slider had emerged as is like consistent put away pitch against both lefties and righties, no matter who the opponent is. That is a pretty special development for him. I'm excited to see that again against this team. This is the team that he faced on July 4th, and he went into the 8th inning in that outing on the 4th of July. Do you remember that game? That was a bizarre game. It moved along quicker than any other game this year, but then it went into extra innings, and they eventually won. But that was the last time he faced the Nats, and so now he's facing them yet again. In terms of this matchup, and this is a team that we obviously played a week ago, so not a whole lot has changed with them. Joey Meneses is still an incredible story, and he destroys lefties. He is on the short list of best hitters against lefties in all of baseball, even though the sample size is kind of small. Lane Thomas, their leadoff guy, has been red hot after a middling start to the year as well. And then even Luke Voigt, he's handled the trade well, going from contending team into what is somewhat of a purgatory for a player in the prime of his career. He seems to have handled that well, and he continues to be very productive in the middle of their lineup. Yeah, for the Marlins, this is almost the same lineup they had on Wednesday. There's been some nice lineup continuity the last few days, even though that it has unfortunately meant benching Gerard essentially, and it kind of move the fact that they're still miscasting De La Cruz as a center fielder. It's just nice to have continuity and to be able to track the same players day after day in the same familiar positions as well. Groshans still hitting in the 9 spot. With him, I've always been a little lukewarm on him, even since coming over. And I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he continues to put up really good offensive numbers the rest of the way. But yeah, I can't get too worked up about that. I think Mattingly's kind of doing the best with what he has at the moment offensively.
Yeah. And I think the only thing left really to mention, not maybe on this lineup, is Marlins legend on the mound gets future Marlins legend, the Marlins, Anibal Sanchez versus Edward Cabrera. Just, Anibal coming back this season, not having the best of years, going up against Eddie. Peter, what are you hoping to get from this series? We looked at that lineup. It's a lot of blue all around. I think the Nationals may have one guy who has run in multiple spots. But what are you hoping for from this series on both sides?
Yeah, I've just talked about it on my show, actually, just as we recorded this. So it's fresh in my mind. For me, I'm looking for a Blade. Big series from Blade. I think we've got 3 righties queued up. I'm intrigued to see what Blade can do. He's having a bit of a slump at the moment, so I'm intrigued there. They've got, Groshans and LeBlanc in the corners in the infield. I'd like to see some power from either or both of them guys in this series as well. Like I'm looking for them boys to add a bit on the power side. And then Eddie Cabrera, I've already said I'm extremely high on him. It feels like we get a typical Eddie Cabrera start, which is 5 innings and a bit, multiple walks and a hit by pitch. So I'd like to see less hit by pitches, less walks, more length from Eddie. Just start to morph more into Sandy Alcantara as it kind of the starts go on. But remain healthy. That's the thing for Eddie. Can he just have this consistent run? So for me, for Eddie, can he limit the walks? Can he limit the headshots straight at the batters and kind of keep progressing? So there's plenty of storylines going on here still for the Fish. Although, yeah, the roster looks a little bit thin now. There's still plenty to look at. So, yeah, I think it's an intriguing one. Clearly, all eyes are on Sandy on Saturday, though, really. I mean, that is the series. Sandy's beach rolling. And can Sandy get to 200 Ks? That is now the next little storyline here and solidify this Cy Young trophy, if indeed it is a trophy. I assume it is.
Sandy, how many Ks is he at right now?
Is a fucking stud. Absolute stud, Sandy. Sandy Alcantara.
Oh, I thought I left my YouTube on or something for a second.
You were saying, Daniel, before I interrupted you.
No, that was perfect. I'll wait. Yeah, I was just mentioning about how many Ks until Sandy reaches 200.
He's 12 shy, so
12?
unless he has a crazy one, I think he'll get 2 starts just to get it. Just a real quick on Blade. He's 4 for his last 40 with 15 strikeouts and 4 walks. So like even the thing that he was doing pretty well, he was just not walking anymore.
If you guys saw this, the Marlins communications sent this bottle of Sands as part of a clever campaign to raise awareness about Sandy's Cy Young candidacy. This is nice to see. I thought this kind of practice may have been a dying breed, but teams still do this to raise awareness among media members about how their players are performing. So for some reason, they sent one to Mish, even though Mish has been the conductor of the Sandy Cy Young train. He doesn't need a reminder about how great he is. But presumably these went out to other media members as well about the way that Sandy is performing this year. And you guys touched on it. This is going to be his final home start, the 7th Sandy's Beach start since they added that fan section. And this is probably going to be the final one because he is lined up to pitch game 162. But at that point, it simply isn't worth the risk of having him pitch an additional game when by then there really might not be any coherent argument for any other Cy Young candidate. He has separated himself from the pack. And thankfully, he has this matchup against this Nats team that he just threw a complete game against. So just hoping for more of the same. And that's not too much to ask because of he looks as strong as ever coming down the stretch, bouncing back from that inconsistency in the middle of the year. This has been the big storyline for us for weeks now about Sandy just finishing off this campaign on a high note. And that's something to certainly look forward to on Saturday with Sandy's Beach. They're calling it World Baseball Classics Day at the stadium. They're going to be, are they going to be wearing the Sugar Kings uniforms because it's a Saturday game?
It's Saturday, yeah.
I think so, yeah. So that should be fun. And I know Isaac is going, and I think Kevin is covering for us. A lot of people should be in the park that day. That should be a fun occasion to celebrate.
Who will be in the press box? Kevin and who else?
Kevin and Alex Krutchik.
Ooh,
yay.
Dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Best duo ever.
Yeah, so I think before predictions, Sandy 95% gets the Cy Young, 99%.
100%.
100%.
It's a lock.
I'll just tell you, that was a fun matchup to watch late last night between
Agreed.
Urias and Zach Gallen. And those are really the only alternatives at this point. And Gallen is finishing off his year. He's the most dominant pitcher in baseball since the All-Star break. So that is going to be a fascinating conversation topic in the offseason, revisiting that trade and how he's done. But in terms of the Cy Young, it's locked up. I think it's over. I think it is over at this point that Sandy's done what he needed to do to stay in front of that race.
Yeah. I think with that, it's our time of the show. Eli, can we get the video?
This is prediction time.
It's time.
Jesus Christ. Zach Gallen, since the All-Star break, a 1.15 ERA in 12 starts.
Well, that's what a 44-inning scoreless streak will do for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You think he'll get maybe any first place votes?
He might.
He's going to appear on a lot of ballots. You vote on your top 3. He's going to be a top 3 guy. But if anybody gets a first place vote, I think maybe Urias steals one. That's the guy that probably has the best case outside of Sandy.
All right. So now with predictions, do we have the list or the standings for predictions?
No, you just want to see your name.
I totally forgot who was in first place. Oh, wow. Look who's in first.
Damn, Kevin got a fucking big lead on me, huh? Shit.
Yeah. I'm in first with 55. Eli right behind me. Kevin 49, coming in close. Isaac, Alex, Noah, Lewis, Grant, Adam, Gabriel, and Mella.
And as you see from the super follower predictions, they're all pretty much on the same wavelength. They think Sandy is going to put his stamp on this season. by dominating the Nationals again and the Marlins winning the series. I should remind people that the Marlins have not won a series in a full month. It has been a long time. So it's up to you guys. I'm interested what you guys have to say, because the super followers are on the same page, and I think Daniel will probably read some of our other staffers that are seem to be on the same page. Everybody's feeling the same vibe that this is the time. This is the series that they assert that this is a fourth place team. Fourth place. If they win the series, they lock up fourth place in the division.
Hey, who knows? Maybe the draft lottery coming up. Maybe they want to tank for I don't even know who's first. Well, first for ours is Mr. Isaac.
They also lock up not getting 100 losses, or did they already do that? Anyway.
You're right. They need a couple more wins.
Okay. So Marlins win 2 out of 3. All right. You know what? No, I think Marlins sweep. I think the Marlins.
Oh, baby.
What is it? Sandy, Braxton, and Edward sweep. Sandy Alcantara is the most valuable player. Just to be different.
All right, Mr. Eli.
They're going to lose another series. They are going to be doing what they're doing. I need to make up ground. I can't be sentimental. I have to be right in order to. We're coming down to the wire here, and for me to be surpassed by Daniel after months in the driver's seat, that has rubbed me the wrong way. So I'm not messing around. Nationals win 2 out of 3. Series MVP Lane Thomas, dynamic leadoff guy.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, Eli just confirmed who the series MVP is right now. Peter, who do you think is going to win the series and your MVP?
Well, the Marlins shouldn't win this series, and the reason being is the Royals are hot, and it's nothing to do with the fact they're playing the Nats, but the Royals have won 3 on the spin, and they've got the same record as the Marlins, so the Marlins need to just keep losing games. However, how about the Nats? Traded away Soto, traded away Bell. They got better. They got better once they traded them guys. What the hell is going on in Washington? They roll in here and they sweep the Marlins. Even Sandy gets beat. Man. Sandy still goes 9, but the Marlins get beat in 10 in that one. They get swept. MVP, Luke Voit, maybe. I don't know. He's the only obvious choice. So Voit with a sweep. And the Marlins enjoy a sweep as they keep on this lottery hunt. They are really they're really in the hunt now.
Yeah, before Daniel goes to his predictions, I could show you the tank race and where we're at with that. The Marlins 6th in the reverse standings, just to get everybody on the same page. If you miss the playoffs, you are in the lottery, and you do have an infinitesimal chance at the bottom to get in.
That's a great word, Eli.
But if you get into the top 3 worst records, those are the teams that have the strongest odds. Yeah, for the Marlins, they're probably outside the top 3. Best case scenario, maybe they get down to number 4, number 5, something like that. But it makes a difference with their odds of getting the number 1 pick. Yeah. And so this is from tankathon.com. You'll get used to using this quite a bit in the coming months to see where the Marlins wind up. So we've talked about this before. As you can see, this is where they compare to the other teams in baseball. And that is something to the first year of the draft lottery in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. So my prediction, well, before I say mine, let's give some of our other staffers. Adam has Marlins win 2 out of 2 games. MVP, he has Mr. Garrett Cooper. And then Lewis, Kevin, and Grant all have Marlins 2 out of 3. MVP will be Sandy. And you can include me on that list also. I think Sandy's going to win MVP. Marlins are going to take 2, at least win the series. Nationals are, you mentioned playing good, but the Marlins, I think, are still the better team despite everything that's going on with the Marlins, injuries, players getting optioned. But Marlins still have Cy Young out there. They still have Sandy. They're going to have Eddie Cabrera going against Anibal Sanchez, who's around 40 years old, I think. But yeah, I think the Marlins are going to take this series fairly easily.
Hold on a minute. There's nothing wrong with 40-year-old guys, by the way. I just want to call that
out. Yeah.
40? I thought you were 28.
On,
Next year, the big 4-0. So.
Oh, yeah. I should mention Nelson Cruz. This seems to be the end of his career. Somebody that has had just an extraordinary career overall. He hasn't played recently due to, I think, an eye issue, and it's unclear if he's going to play in this series, but he's still on their active roster. They're holding out hope that he gets on the field again before hanging it up. He is 42. And this seems to be the end of the road for somebody with 459 career home runs.
Oh, wow.
That he compiled that very sneakily throughout his second half of his career. So hopefully we get to see him at least as a pinch hitter at some point.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
Right.
Pete, you're going to be out there to catch Albert Pujols' 700th home run?
It's time, or better get over to, I don't know where the Yankees are playing at the moment, but it sounds like there's some expensive baseballs flying around at the moment.
Yeah.
So get yourself in the ballparks. I don't know, but I mean, there's some interesting wrinkles now, isn't there? There's been a lot of reporting about this Judge MVP race, and obviously the Pujols quest for 700 kind of caught everyone off guard, didn't it? Really, like that wasn't really a conversation this year, and then he's caught fire, and it's been fun. I mean, maybe they've just got juiced balls for him. Who cares? I really don't care. Just meatball central. Just let's just embrace that. So yeah, but there's some expensive baseballs flying around. I saw like if you get Judges, maybe it's like a $500,000 kind of baseball, or $1 million or something if you're catching those. So should be some fun Twitter videos flying around of just people going at it in the stands. I guess it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, I think he does it tonight. I think he hit 61 tonight against Rich Hill in Yankee Stadium Friday night. All the games against Boston are going to be nationally televised.
Yeah,
and I think tonight is when he hits number 61.
Is this the Apple TV one as well? That's like there's been a little bit of
I don't know if it is. That's annoying, but I think it is.
Yeah, there's been some buzz around that. Yeah,
yesterday was Fox
and
tomorrow.
I think the Yes Network gave Apple TV Michael K to use for this, so he could kind of like announce Aaron Judge's, coming into the clear and everything. But I'll be there when Jordan Groshans when he hits 500 and Luke Williams hits 501. But with that, for Daniel, for Eli, Isaac, Peter, for everyone else who couldn't be here tonight, this is Fish Stripes Live, and always go fish.
We got to end it off right. We got to